Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 3 replays in the Soviet Tier 7 Premium Heavy Tank, the KV-122. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the KV-122, it is the level 75 reward for the Season Pass. It's basically a KV-85 with the 122mm gun up at Tier 7, and then having, obviously, some of the statistics changed to be up there. Now back in the day when I first got this tank, around about when it first came out, a wee while ago, and I say a wee while ago, it's probably like 2018 at this point, which is, oh boy, that's like 7 years ago. Oh, good lord. Existential crisis moment. But anyway, yeah, so when I got the tank back then, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty decent for a Tier 7 heavy tank. It wasn't incredible, it was just decent. It was workable, you know, it was nice to slap with the 390 Alpha. The gun was a bit derpy. It was basically similar to the IS vehicles, the IS, the IS-2, etc, which I did enjoy as well. But it lost some of the armour that those vehicles got to have better mobility, and that's still kind of the case this day and age as well. But playing it now, I don't really think it's that good of a tank. I haven't particularly enjoyed trying to play it to get these replays. It's one of those vehicles that is truly a support vehicle. You don't really have much armour, so you're pretty much easily pennable by most vehicles you're going to face. You still have the 390 Alpha, which slaps for Tier 7. You know, it's good Alpha tier for tier, right? But the gun accuracy is poor, and it can be really frustrating. The reload's a bit long as well. The one thing that is decent is that you can get above the 445 meters spotting cap, as you're not quite as blind as some of the other Soviet heavy tanks. But yeah, generally it can be a bit of a struggle, this vehicle. It's going to take quite a bit to be able to get the most out of it. Do I find it to be the worst tank ever? No. Do I feel like it's a bit of a frustrating one to play at times, and you've got to really get to grips with it to even try and squeeze games out with it? Yeah, that's probably the way it is. So with the KV-122 that you do get at level 75 in the Season Pass, in terms of the statistics of the vehicle, it's got a 42 km/h top speed, a 14 km/h reverse speed, 700 horsepower engine, which is 15.05 horsepower per ton ratio, and with a 1.97 on soft, 1.03 on medium, and a 0.94 on firm. It means that the terrain resistances don't really hold the tank back whatsoever, and it is a fairly mobile heavy tank. You will get up to that 42 km/h top speed decently easily. It's not incredibly mobile, so you feel a little bit sluggish at times, but generally it's fairly mobile and will get up to that top speed. And if you put a turbo on it, you will get about 44 km/h out of it, and it will hit that. And the extra oomph in the engine is definitely quite nice for that. I don't run that, but that's down to you really. We got a 9.31% internal fire chance, which is on the lower end of fire chances, especially with the fact that we're running the fire safety training, because it's Soviet tanks like to burn. And so, realistically, with what I've put on it in terms of fire safety training, I haven't really been set on fire that often in it, which is definitely very nice for the KV-122. Something that it used to get set on fire all the time. It would just burn all the time. So much so that I think back in the day I ended up running automatic fire extinguishers, because it was just so frustrating, the fact that how much it actually burned. But, yeah, with fire safety training, it's not too bad, realistically, for me now, which is alright. We've got a 43.45 degree a second hull rotation speed, which means the tank does turn pretty quickly on its tracks, especially for a heavy tank. And with a 37.98 degree a second turret rotation speed, yeah, generally the tank does feel fairly nimble for a heavy tank, which is definitely nice. Which is good for saying that, obviously, you do lack the armour, generally. So you got a 450 meter view range, which is above that 445 meter spotting cap, which can be good for the KV-122, because again, a lot of the Soviet tanks are quite blind, so they do struggle to get up to the 445 meter cap. Now, you have that 450 on this vehicle by running vents and optics. That's nice. I mean, you can just about spot for yourself, which can be quite good in this vehicle. A 2.22 accuracy during rotation with a 3.4 accuracy during movement on this 122mm D25T gun is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And this aim circle blooms out massively. It is really poor. And yeah, your aim circle will be huge when you move the tank and turn the turret, as you've already seen in this game. And it's got 2.71 second aim time as well with the build that we run, which means it does take it a long time to be able to actually get the gun aimed in as well. And because the aim circle is massive after you've moved or turned the turret, yeah, you really feel it. Well, the gun handling on this tank is really bad, but that's not something unheard of for this 122mm gun on a lot of the Soviet vehicles. As you also have 0.43 accuracy at 100 meters as well, which is atrocious, and again, if you're not fully aimed, This gun loves missing, and that's exactly what you've seen at the start of this replay. We've tried to take shots where we thought, okay, I have to take the shot right now, otherwise I'm just not going to get the opportunity to hit one of these vehicles, like the Barask, like the T-29, and the shots have just gone absolutely anywhere and everywhere, and it's super frustrating for that. It really is on this tank. You've got 6 degrees of gun depression, which is slightly better than 5 degrees of gun depression, than the normal 5 you get on a lot of Soviet vehicles, but 6 degrees of gun depression is still poor and will be a bit of a pain depending on the ridgeline you decide to take, so be careful what position you do go take in this tank. You got a 10.08 second reload, which is 2.3k DPM, which is actually not too bad. The reload does feel long at 10.08, but 2.3k DPM for 390 alpha at tier 7 actually isn't that bad, realistically, looking at that. It's one of those where you've got to really temper the way you play it again. You don't want to be against tanks that are going to have higher DPM or faster reloads, because that's where you lose a lot of HP, and especially if they hit you, you are losing that HP. So you have to be very, very careful when you are playing this tank for how you position yourself, because that's a DPM's got 2.3, but with a longer reload at 10.08, that can be a bit of a struggle at times depending on what you're facing. You've got 175 penetration on the standard AP, with 217 on the premium APCR and 61mm of penetration on the HE. Now, the pen at 175 is fairly standard, again, for that Soviet 122mm gun at tier 7. It's good enough to go through a lot of tanks. There's a fair few that are pushing near 200 these days on their standard, and then a bit more than that on the premium, which means you can deal with tier 9s a little bit easier, but this tank doesn't have that. The 175 can be a bit of a struggle against tier 9s, and if you load the premium APCR, again, that can still struggle against some of the tier 9s. But for its own tier, it's not too bad, and even against tier 8s, 175 is not too bad. There's just going to be some awkward moments, like you saw against the E65's Villing there, where I had to really get the right angle to be able to put the shot through his lower plate to be able to pen it because of the way it angled, and I couldn't quite go through the upper plate. But yeah, that's the penetration on the standard AP and APCR. You've got 390 alpha, like I say, with 780 meters a second shell velocity on that standard AP round, and 975 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR. Now, the velocity is poor on the AP, and that adds to the real derpy feeling of this gun, and it's why the shells feel like they loop at times as well, and it just adds to the general inaccuracy of the tank. 975 is better, is a lot nicer to use than the AP, but it is still below that 1,000 meters a second average, and that means that it can also still be a pain, and you have to give a lot of lead at distance to be able to use this KV-122 gun, because again, it's a royal pain. It does love missing. You've got to take your time with it and make sure you can get the shot aimed in and be able to hit the tanks. And as it is a tier 7 premium, it does actually have a 150% silver bonus, which really isn't that bad on a tier 7 tank. Doesn't make incredible silver, but it does make you a decent chunk for saying you're going to get this tank at level 75. By the way, you can use these ice sheets if they're not broken. As long as you don't rush into them, you can use them to get into this position. That's just a handy tip for this map. But yeah, with the crew and equipment setup that I run on this vehicle, to get those statistics for this tank, I do run Born Leader, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanic, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Clutch Braking, Rapid Aim, Expert Gunner, Fire Safety Training, the Advanced Loader, Vents, Optics, the GLD. GLD to get that aim time down as low as possible, because yeah, it's not very good, and you will really need to rely on the aim time at times, and 271, even with the GLD and having everything helped out, is still not great. Vents to make everything about the tank as good as humanly possible, as well as getting the best DPM and the best accuracy, best aim time, that sort of thing. Optics to be able to get the 450 meters of view range in conjunction with the vents, so that at least we're not completely blind. Oh, we watched that ricochet on that guy unspotted. But anyway, the advanced loader to get the best out of the DPM. Run and Gun and Snapshot to get the best accuracy during rotation and movement. Terrible shot, by the way. Accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible, so that aim circle doesn't bloom out horrifically, or as horrifically as it would if we didn't help it. The clutch braking and rapid aim to get the turret traverse and the track traverse better, again, to make this tank feel nice and nimble rather than fairly lethargic. With the fire safety training, again, your Soviet, nice to be able to reduce the amount of fires / put the fires out that little bit quicker. Expert Gunner to increase the chance of doing module damage by 6%, and the other three in general, which are quite nice to run on heavy. Well, two of them, Born Leader and Situational Awareness on every tank in the game, Track Mechanic on heavy tanks when you are getting stuck in. But like I say, there's plenty of ways you can set up that vehicle. You could drop vents if you wanted to and run the turbocharger to go at 44. It's really down to you and how you really want to set up the tank. So this first game we're seeing here on this map, which is Arctic region, we've not had a great time really. We're up to 2.1k damage and 530 assistance. We've picked up 5 kills. The team kind of crumbled everywhere, and every time we moved up to go try and change where we wanted to be and go somewhere else, it just worked out that it didn't work at all. And so we've managed to pick up a load of kills, but the team still managed to collapse on us, and sadly we get beat up by the tier 8s. There's one of those games where we tried our best to play the support role, but we just couldn't quite get it to go because, yeah, the accuracy on this gun is not very good, and at distance it's a royal pain. And you saw the struggle for the tank realistically in a game like that, where we're trying to play the support role because we can't play aggressive. The moment we played aggressively, we just got absolutely wrecked, and that's what basically happens to this tank. The only real time you can play aggressively is in a top tier matchup, and that's because you've got the alpha, which packs a punch and really does matter when you are that top tier, especially if you're playing against tier 5s and 6s, right? You can absolutely trash them with 390 alpha. When you're going against tier 8s and 9s, they're more likely to have that alpha and don't fear it quite as much. Also, your penetration starts to struggle a little bit, and then they don't really worry about you whatsoever because your armor means nothing to them. You know, so that's why this tank does struggle, and it's just not that great of a tank, honestly. If it was one that you were thinking about buying, you're probably looking at it and going, nah, I'm alright. Getting it from a season pass, that's alright. You know, at least you get to experience it, give it a go, but you didn't really pay anything for it because you paid 2,000 gold, but you got the 2,000 gold back, and it meant you could get all the other goodies along the way. The other thing about this tank, by the way, is it is the unskinned version of the Bear. The Bear is the KV-122, but with a skin at tier 7, so if you have the Bear as well, you already know what that tank's like. That tank has a slight bit extra spaced armor on it just because, well, reasons, really. But yeah, that's the skin version of the KV-122. So if you have the Bear, you're getting a duplicate of that tank, basically, but the unskinned version. So this second game, we're here in a tier 8 lobby yet again, which, to be honest, was my average matchmaking for this vehicle. I actually only saw, I think I played about 12 or 13 games in this vehicle, and I only saw tier 9s once. 8 of the times were in this kind of matchup. We basically saw tier 8s most of the time, which, again, is a bit of a struggle for this vehicle. But if you can catch people out like we've done with that T54 Mod 1, let's say you can rack up damage nicely, you can really pack a punch, and I think that's what's nice about the vehicle. That's a terrible shot, by the way. But that's what's nice about the vehicle, is the fact that you do have the pack a punch power of the 390 Alpha, so it's not like you're cutting them for 240 or 200 or 180, etc., etc., like some of the other tanks at tier 7. You are still smacking them, which is nice. And it's definitely a strong point for the KV-122. So we managed to fish the SFAT 105 off there, pick up our first kill of this game. We see the T29 is going up against our heavy tank friend, so we're going to get in there and help him out. Again, you can see us waiting. We have to wait for that gun to get aimed in, otherwise it will miss. It loves missing, so do not forget to wait for the aim circle to shrink. It does feel like it takes an age, but if you don't, you'll have lots of shots like you saw in the previous game that go over there, over here, over there, and right here. You know, that's just what it likes to do. So we're trying to get up behind the 7032, trying to find a shot. Oh, no, it's not 7032, sorry, it's a Glory IS-5. And trying to aim up the shot. We spend a bit too long aiming it in, and so we end up missing the shot there into the back of that guy. As we, again, it's the hesitation that we have with this gun. We just have to sit and wait and go, okay, I need to be able to wait for the same time to be able to hit the shot. We take a hit from the Stirrer Mill, put a shot into that guy. The T-34-3 looked like he was trying to come after us. I knew that if any of these two guys decide to drive around the corner, they're going to take a lot of hits because a lot of my team are here. We drive around, end up getting lucky, really. The T-34-3 doesn't actually pen us, but he did only track us, and we put a shot into his side before he got absolutely wrecked by the heavy tanks coming in. I decided I wanted to take that hit, even if it penned me, just because that T-34-3 was about to get wrecked, and I thought, well, this is my opportunity to get some damage on that tier 8 medium tank. If I take the hit, I'll take the hit. At this point, it's looking pretty good. So the artillery's just killed the light tank that was chasing them after, and we've got a Lycan on our left, which we're trying to aim the shot up. Again, making sure that we were slowing down a little bit so that the aim circle came in. We put the shot into that Lycan to finish him off for our third kill of the game. We know the other light tank was somewhere around this corner. The artillery, we know where he is in the other corner at J0. We find the squall, aim up the shot. That's why I'm saying you've got to wait for the aim time, because it misses. And then the M12 said hi. Thanks, M12. But we finished again with 2.6k damage, 3 kills, 505 assistance. And again, that showed some of the nice points of the tank, but also a lot of the weak points of it, as we finished with the second class, the 1495 base XP. Decent game for the KV-122. But yeah, again, it just showed the real pain that this tank can be. When we came up against that Squall, it was like, hello, Mr. Squall. You are basically point blank. This is going to be fine. We didn't really wait for the aim circle to fully get going, and so the shot flew straight over him, and we missed. Everything that wanted to pen us basically did, except for the T-34-3, which got a bit unlucky. And then artillery said, hi, I have a round that is ready for your tank, and you shall now accept it and die. And so we did, because we're an accepting host round here. We say, okay, we're all friends, okay? Wait, why does he want to hurt me? Oh. I thought we were friends. Yeah, it's the way it is. So we're on to the third and final replay of this video. We're on this map, which is Highway. And on Highway, what we're going to do from this spawn, same as always. I always say it, what you want to do for our team from this spawn, don't bother with the AB line. Go to this position here, farm those guys as they cross, and then push the town, win the town, and come back to defend your base. Because if you win the town and try and push out the town to go up the HJK line towards their spawn, a lot of the time if they've got campy campersons, it's quite easy for them to defend their spawn. And you'll find that there's probably 1 or 2 or 3 people, or maybe even, there's usually probably 5 or 6 actually, that are coming up the ABC themselves and coming towards your cap area. So if you push out towards their spawn, you get bogged down in sniper fire, and then find that you're actually being capped yourselves. So what you always want to do is try and win the town, then come back to defend your base. It's a boring way to play it, but if you try and do it any other way, 90% of the time, and I say 90% of the time because it's not all the time, but 90% of the time, your team loses if they push too aggressively out of the town or don't defend your cap. I mean, that sounds like a stupid thing to say. If you don't defend your cap, you lose the game, but you trust me, teams don't do it. They win the town and they try and push out and then never come back to defend their base. But there you go. So we've managed to get a kill so far with 1420 damage, and again, we're just sitting waiting for opportunities to be able to shoot at things. The LTTB is spotted crossing the open. Our 2 heavy tanks are actually pushing in the town quite aggressively, and they're not really finding anything. It seems to be that their team has actually camped quite hard along the bottom area and towards their spawn area. So we've just got to play the patience game. Sit, wait for people to drive into the open, give us the nice shot that we want, and that way we can pick up some damage. This is not the strongest suit of the KV-122, naturally, as we are a very, very derpy gun, so hitting these sorts of shots at range can be a real struggle. So we see the Guardian STG. I think, okay, I'm just going to wait the time out there to get the shot into the Guardian STG, chance it in case we do take a hit, and thankfully RNG was with us, and that shot flew true straight into the side of the Guardian STG. They are pushing quite aggressively out of that A67 area, which again, like I say, happens very regularly. It's the way that their team tends to push because it's their strongest pushing point, but they can also quite easily push the town and win the town as well, which is why I say that these spawns for this map are pretty unbalanced, because they can push the town and win the town pretty easily. But they can also push the ABC line and win that fairly easily as well, and have whole control of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line. Whereas we don't get that. We only get the ability to push the town and defend this ridge line, which is a bit sad. And that's why I said the spawns are definitely unbalanced for Highway. Because it used to be the case that what changed it is years and years and years ago, and I mean years ago, it's probably 2016, 2017 for this map that changed the spawns. Our team, this spawn, has never changed its spawns. They've always spawned exactly where the cap is. Their team used to all spawn at J23, which meant that, well, at J2K2. And at J2K2, that meant that they could get to the town quite easily, but they could also cover the B12 line if they pushed aggressively. If they had people move fast enough, they could get there and cut off the enemy team pushing up the AB line. But it gave our team a chance to get up to the AB line, get in the corner and get stuck in a brawl to try and take the 1-2 flank. But then they changed the spawns from J2K2 to having loads of people spawn at GF2 and having people spawn at J2, which meant that that gave them the whole 1-2 line, and it made it easy for even really slow tanks to get to the corner at A1 before we could get across the ravine, which then killed that line completely. So it's one of those things, it'd be nice to see if they could change the spawns one day, just to see how it goes, you know? see how it changes the meta of the map a bit. But yeah, this is the way that I tend to play the map, and it tends to work for me from this spawn most of the time. It leads to a bit of a boring game, but yeah, that's just the way it is at times. So we find the cupola shot there into Mr. Type 59-2 because, again, we're doing the thing. Our team's won the town. We are now defending our spawn area. The Type 59-2 has only given us his cupolas, and did I say this gun was derpy? Did I say it was derpy? No, it's the most accurate gun in the universe. We hit that shot on the Guardian STG. 2 cupola shots on the Type 59-2. This is the most accurate gun in the history of guns. No, it's not. No, that's just a complete lie. Complete fabrication. But we'll take it when RNGesus giveth. Because when RNGesus doesn't giveth, it taketh, and it laughs at you. So when it decides to give you the nice shots, we'll take it every day, and we'll run to the bank and deposit that RNG check, you know? So we're going to aim up the shot on the side of Mr. T28, put the shot straight through the side of him. There's just one vehicle left as we're up to 3.4k damage, 359 assistance, the 3 kills, LTTB, 1 shot, aiming in, ready to go. Get out my game, Mr. Light Tank. Securing our 4th kill of the game for a pretty decent game there, yet again, for the KV-122 in a Tier 8 game. The victory, 4 kills, 3.5k damage, 359 assistance damage, the first class, the high caliber, with the 1725 basics. Pretty decent game there for the vehicle, which, like I say, it's not the greatest vehicle in the universe, but you are getting it essentially for free in the Season Pass. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!